Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Story. I'm the managing partner of Launchport and the vice chairman of the state's Life Science Advisory Board. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Governor Moore, his honorable cabinet, our legislators, members of media, and guests. I'd also like to recognize that Kevin Plank's vision of this city garage was that it was an innovation center, and want to thank Robert Scheer and Matt Brown, who have taken over the ownership of this facility and turned it into a really beautiful, complex life sciences commercialization center. Governor Moore, on behalf of Launchport, Blackbird Labs, and all the residents of City Garage, I'd like to thank you and your cabinet once again for visiting us today. We did make it through the tour. That was a miracle, I think, a little bit, on time. But we also want to thank you for the support from the Build Our Future Fund, which has gone into a number of the companies here, and it leverages the opportunities represented here in the furtherance of medical innovation and clinical adoption. Really critical mission. The companies that work here are beacons that demonstrate how public-private partnerships can lead to economic growth, and we're proud to be a key element of the lighthouse sector in life sciences that is part of your critical agenda. I don't know if everybody noticed around the walls up here, but that is the national anthem, which was written at Fort McHenry, just down the road. The flag behind me, the great slogan of Made in America, all reflect on how Baltimore was a place where we have made a lot of things in the past. Steel, ships, autos, and with a new revolution in advanced manufacturing and innovations in personalized medicine, this place is also a reminder that we are back and making important things once again. There have been hundreds of millions of dollars that have gone into these companies, and Blackbird is going to ensure there's hundreds of millions more going in. So let's do it. We know that we're just one part of the goals that you have for the state in terms of our contribution, but we really do feel like we're the tip of the spear. And our mission is to make sure that we bring both health and wealth to Main Street, and that is our goal. So please welcome Governor Moore to the podium.
Good afternoon, everybody. Bob, thank you so much for the introduction, but also just thank you for the leadership. Thank you for the tour. You know, Bob and I were talking earlier. Until I got a chance to do the tour, I thought I had the coolest job in the state of Maryland. I realize I do not, because having a chance to see every single day what the future looks like, having a chance to see every day that the future of this country and the future of this world is being built right here in Maryland, having a chance to see ideas and innovators and thought leaders and people who are our society's risk takers, and risk takers for good. Because the things that I got a chance to see just now, the entrepreneurs that I had a chance to meet, the problems that these folks are out here solving, it is, you cannot help but leave here not just inspired, but also leave here knowing that we are in very, very good hands. So I can't thank you enough. I can't thank Matt Tremblay enough. I can't thank this entire team. Thank you. Rylan, thank you. Thank you for continuing to inspire us and knowing that the future really is going to be built right here inside of Maryland. You know, what you are building here at City Garage is exactly what we need and exactly what we mean when we talk about we are going to build the economy of the future here in the state of Maryland. And the state of Maryland is going to do everything in our power to be able to support those ambitions and support that work. We see with Blackbird Laboratories that you really are bridging the gap between breakthrough innovation, real-world applications, finding problems and saying that there is no challenge, no problem that we do not have the creativity to solve as long as we truly put our mind to it. And here at Launchport, it's providing a place for medtech startups to build devices right here in Baltimore rather than shipping them to jobs overseas. And in June, our administration awarded nearly $3 million to Blackbird and Launchport through our Build Our Future grant pilot program. These are the success stories of Maryland. These are success stories of our time. But the powerful thing is, these are far from the only ones. Because in 2024, Maryland was ranked the 6th most innovative state in the entire country. And this year, Maryland businesses attracted the 12th most venture capital funding nationally. I loved going by and talking to people and said, where are you from? California. Great. No, actually, Maryland. Florida. Actually, no, Maryland. Because the work that's happening here, and their work, is being supported by partners like TEDCO, whose work has helped to generate over $2.7 billion in economic activity in the state of Maryland alone. We are excited about that, and I'm hungry for more, because I'm unapologetic about my desire for growth. I don't come from a political world, do not come from a political family, nor the world of political bureaucracy. In fact, this is the only political office I have ever held in my life. I come from the world of the military, where I led soldiers in combat. I come from the world of business, where I worked in finance. I come from the world of philanthropy, where I ran one of the largest poverty-fighting organizations in this country. I am a capitalist. I'm unapologetically pro-business. I'm a former small business owner. I believe in economic competitiveness, but also I'm just pretty competitive all the way around. And all of the other 49 other governors, they know that. And it's time for Maryland to start competing. It's time for Maryland to stop beating itself. And we know the Maryland General Assembly will convene next week for their 2026 general session. And today, here, I am very proud to announce that one of our signature pieces of legislation that I'll be offering to the Maryland General Assembly next week will be the Delivering Economic Competitiveness and Advancing Development Efforts Act, or the DECADE Act. And with our partners of the General Assembly, this year, we are going to pass the DECADE Act in the state of Maryland and make this state more competitive economically. This legislation extends our Build Our Future program to 2030. And it's part of our mission to drive economic growth over the next decade and truly make this Maryland's decade. Because we've got to build that path. And I think it's important to understand where we're going to be able to also have a context of where we've come from, how far we've come, and what else we need to do. Because before I took office, Maryland's economic outlook was amongst the lowest in the nation, according to the American Legislative Exchange Council. We saw an economy that was growing at less than half of the national economy. Now we're seeing how we, in an economy that was growing at less than half the national economy, but the thing that was growing was our spending. Because during that same period of time, Maryland's spending increased by 70%. So we were spending, we just weren't growing. And while we know that some people can have a difficult time with understanding the concept of what that means, it does not take a Nobel Prize in economics to understand when you have increased spending, but your growth remains relatively flat, that's how you get structural deficits. From day one, our administration has worked to both control spending while also saying controlling spending does not mean stop investing. That you must invest in top-line growth, you must invest in getting people back into the workforce, you must invest in the things that are going to have the largest societal ROI that our state can not just believe in, but that our state can trumpet. Where last year we made more cuts to the Maryland state budget than any year in the past 17 years. But we also knew that we could never cut our way to prosperity. The only way to achieve prosperity is growth. And even after turning a deficit into a surplus last year, another massive hit the state of Maryland last January, where we saw the inauguration of a federal administration that decided to launch an all-out assault on the state of Maryland. And the impacts of this administration cannot be overstated. We have now seen nearly 25,000 federal workers who were Marylanders fired. We've now seen how our balance sheet has been altered by billions. So while other states have been impacted, the mathematical reality is there is no state that's been impacted like the state of Maryland. So we cannot just sit there and decry what's happening. Our job is not just to push back. Our job is to push forward. And so the passage of the Decade Act in this moment is not a nice to do. The ability to diversify our economy is not a nice to do. The ability to make sure we're investing in the future is not a nice to do. The ability to make sure that our entrepreneurs have an easier path to long-term growth is not a nice to do. It is a must do, and it is something that is imperative for Maryland's long-term economic growth, and we will get it done this year. Because the Decade Act advances it through three basic ideas. The first, we need to remain focused on investments in our biggest and highest potential lighthouse industries. Maryland can be the capital of quantum computing and the capital of cybersecurity. We can lead the country in aerospace, and we can lead the country in defense. We can seize the possibilities of biocomputing and the possibilities of life sciences and grow our economy. Our state does not have to chase the future. We can define it. And we can set the pace for the rest of the country. But we have to choose. You know, Bob, I did not talk to one CEO today. When I asked them, I said, what do you do? And they said, oh, everything. No. Because a CEO that tells me, oh, I do everything, I'm looking at a CEO that has no intention of actually being successful. Tell me what you do and what you focus on. And focus. The reason they're successful is because these are companies that understand focus. We need to be a state that does the same thing. We need to be a state that establishes the things that we are going to lead in. The second, we need to double down on business attraction, business development, and business expansion. Since 2023, Maryland has created and helped to create nearly 100,000 new jobs, the vast majority of them private sector jobs. We've secured more than $10 billion in private sector investment. We have helped to create more than 35,000 new businesses or created or brought businesses to the state of Maryland. We saw how last November AstraZeneca announced a $2 billion investment inside of the state of Maryland. That, by the way, is the largest singular private investment in Maryland's history. And by the way, that investment is going to then bring 2,500 new jobs. That just last month, Samsung Biologics announced Maryland would be the home of its first U.S. manufacturing facility, that Samsung Biologics, the largest biotech company in Korea, chose Maryland to be the first place that they would build manufacturing in the United States. And while we are proud of those accomplishments, as I mentioned before, I want more. Just imagine what we can achieve when we get the Decade Act passed. And third, we must strengthen programs that are working. And we've got to sunset those that are not. We must invest in things that we know that data shows can actually be effective. And if there is no data that shows that something is effective, it's got to end. We can't spend just for spending's sakes. And our administration has studied dozens of state initiatives designed to grow our economy. You can just ask the members of our administration that are here right now who have spent countless hours doing this work. We've pored over countless reports, state documents, internal reviews. We've worked very closely with our remarkable Department of Commerce, with our private sector partners, many of whom are in this room, and we've worked with stakeholders all across industries and all across the country to truly dig into the data. Together, we have identified the programs that will help us to unleash the power of our assets and deliver real return on real results, and we've identified the ones that are not working. This becomes a time where we should actually marry strategy with data, not emotive splurges, data. This is actually going to help us to sharpen our tools in the toolkit and become the best stewards possible of taxpayer dollars. This is what's going to help Maryland to go from being asset-rich and strategy-poor to being asset-rich and global leaders. Because I will put our assets against anyone in this country. I'll put our assets against anyone in the world. That Maryland is the home of NASA Goddard, the home of the NIH, the home of Fort Meade, the home of U.S. Cyber Command, the home of Aberdeen Proving Ground, the home of the United States Naval Academy, which is, as Secretary Coker knows, a great institution that I root for 364 days of the year, the home of Frostburg State, the home of Morgan State, the home of College Park, the home of Johns Hopkins University. From Mountain, Maryland, to UMES and the Eastern Shore, we have everything we need to succeed. Right here. The labs, the schools, the facilities, the people. We do not lack talent. What we have lacked is alignment. So we need to do a better job of leveraging those assets to drive private sector growth. Government will not bring growth. The private sector does that. Government will not drive explosive economic supports. The private sector does that. The government's job is to stop getting in the way and to provide the supports necessary for the private sector to drive the kind of excellence that Maryland is going to require. The Decade Act is a critical piece of that strategy. And I know when I release it, you will see that the bill is dense, it's complicated, it's a bit nerdy. But I also know this, in the nerdy and in the complicated, it's the good stuff. The stuff we're going to need. That a few years ago, artificial intelligence sounded nerdy too, and now it's a household phrase. That we are not going to catch up to our competitors by supporting industries of the past. We can and we must stake our claim in the economy of the future. And the spirit of this legislation is very simple: to build out state programs that bring us closer to dominating those lighthouse industries, that focus on the entrepreneurs and the risk takers, that focus on things like permitting and regulatory reform to make it easier and simpler for entrepreneurs to be able to grow in our state, to repeal and revamp the programs that are not working. Because we cannot defend programs just because they are there. We must accelerate the programs that are necessary. We will always defend our incumbent industries and defend the things that are a heartbeat of our economic strength. But we must also have the courage to place big bets on industries of the future. Big bets on our people, big bets on our state. And so I'm thankful for each and every one of you for being the bold, for being the risk takers, for being the ones who said, you know what, I'll leave that job of stability because I've got an idea. For being the ones who had to have the conversation with family members and friends and saying, you know what, I'm going to give up this thing that seems stable because I think we have a shot of actually changing the world. Thank you for being the ones who are unafraid to change the world and for knowing that fortune favors the bold. And I want you to know that here in the state of Maryland, you are going to find an administration in this state who's not just going to support, but who's going to root for you every step of the way. Let's get the Decade Act done, and let's go make sure that Maryland wins this decade. Bless you guys. Congratulations, and thank you so much for having me.